All right, for more on all the goings-on at Queen's Park today, let's bring in political analyst and former Queen's Park correspondent, Keith Leslie. Keith, let's start with MPP Skelly. Why do you think it's taken so long for a woman to be chosen as Speaker of the House?
That's a really good question. I mean, it's been 45 years since the federal parliament had Jean Sauvé elected as the first woman speaker. That's an awfully long time ago for Ontario to come, usually we're leading in these kinds of things in Ontario. 45 years, an awful long time to get a woman speaker elected. But it is, as a couple of women screamed out when Skelly took the speaker's chair today, history. It absolutely is a historic moment for Ontario to do this. It's like the last glass ceiling around the Ontario political scene. And of course, Skelly is now, she's sort of like the sheriff. She's in control of question period and who gets to ask questions and in charge of debates. But she's also in control of the entire legislative precinct. It's a very powerful position, and one, as I say, that a woman certainly could have had a long, long time ago.
All right, next topic, I want to get your thoughts on Ford's defense of his campaign manager. Is the Premier right? Do you think his campaign manager, Corey Tenecki, could have done a better job with the federal election than Poilievre's team?
Well, he certainly did a better job with Ford's campaign than the federal campaign they're doing for the federal Conservatives and Poilievre. I mean, Tenecki has helped lead the Ontario Tories to 3 consecutive majority governments. That in itself is history. He is hardball. He's, he plays very, very tough. But to have him come out so strongly criticizing the federal campaign with only 2 weeks to go and saying they're headed for disaster and they really screwed it up because they had a 25-point lead going in and now they're basically 5 points behind in every poll. So he's really, really harsh. There's been some talk that this is, laying the ground for Doug Ford to run federally. I personally don't buy that unless Doug Ford's been secretly taking French lessons. I think this is just about a disagreement between progressive Conservatives in Ontario and the federal Conservatives, which are far more hard right than Doug Ford ever would be.
All right, moving forward, Merritt Stiles and Mike Schreiner both saying today that they want to work with Ford on protecting Ontario from Trump's tariffs. Do you think the Premier is looking for their input?
Not really. They asked for a commission. They want an all-party panel sort of get together to deal with sort of thing. And Ford said he's happy to have him come in and sit down and chat with him anytime about these sorts of issues. But I don't think he's looking for an all-party committee to guide the province in this way. I think he knows exactly how he wants to handle the tariff situation. We've seen him come out and do it basically since before the election. So I don't think he's really willing to take on their advice, although I'm sure he will go through the motions of actually listening to them. But whether he incorporates any of the opposition party's advice is really, I think, unexpected. I don't expect him he would do that.
The Liberal leader, Bonnie Crombie, she still doesn't have a seat in the House. Do you see that impacting her performance as Liberal leader this session?
Well, it's certainly going to hurt her as far as, just identifying as people knowing who the heck she is. And as far as the Liberals making a mark in the legislature, it's going to be that much tougher when the leader has to comment outside the legislature all the time instead of being involved in the actual debates. But she's got lots of time now. There's 4 years before the next election, so she's got lots of time to find a riding to run in. I don't know whether that's going to be just a general by-election because someone resigns, or whether they find a Liberal who's willing to step aside to let her run in what would be a relatively safe Liberal seat. Right now, it appears she's going to be stuck outside the legislature for the foreseeable future.
All right, that's former Queen's Park correspondent, I should say, Keith Leslie. Keith, thanks for being with us again.
Thanks for having me.